Cam Bertrand, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm a big fan. I know you're actually in Florida here where I'm at. So how's the whole quarantine situation been for you?
I'm good at quarantine. Like, I like it. I like not having to go out. And then when I do go out, people don't expect you to interact with them. That's kind of dope. Like, nobody's like extra friendly, and you're just like, yeah, I get to be in my own little bubble. It's the perfect amount of weird. Like, it's the most Florida thing ever. Like, I'm surprised we didn't jump on this bandwagon sooner. Like,
Well, speaking of that, man, it's kind of cool wearing a mask. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the whole pandemic thing is, unfortunate, but the fact that, we can wear a mask and you're just talking about being in your own bubble, so you're like kind of in your own thoughts when you wear your mask.
yeah, when the thing started and everybody's wearing masks, I was like, I'm never gonna wear a mask. Masks are dumb, and I prolonged it for a long time. Then now I bought two new masks because they look cool, and I'm like, bet, like this is a new fashion statement for me. I'm not wearing it to protect anybody. I don't care about anyone's health. I just do it because it looks cool.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You can also like have your own mask, your own brand, just
Yeah,
have.
I just bought one today. I literally just got home from the mall and I bought a new mask. I bought one of the ninja ones that like cover your whole face. It's great.
Oh, man. Well, since this whole quarantine, I saw that you actually had a special that you did on Zoom. So how do you like that in comparison to the doing the stand up at the bars and clubs and everything?
Oh, I hated it. Yeah, it's just different. And I'm such a nerd when it comes to stand up and doing stand up the right way, as I would call it. But it's like I'm a fan of comedy clubs and doing it in a club with low ceilings and everybody intimate. Doing it over like Zoom, doing it over the internet, you don't really get that same feedback. You don't really get to interact with people as much. The delay, there's a disconnect. It's not the same. But yeah, it was cool to try it. I tried it out. I figured out that it's not really for me. Like,
Hmm.
if this is the only way to do stand up, I'll do it. But like, I prefer not to.
Do you have any other Zoom specials coming up or any Zoom stand-ups?
Yeah, I got some college gigs that I have to do like this, like over a Zoom thing, which I'm
Hmm.
like not necessarily not looking forward to, but also I'd rather just do it in person. Like it's just
Yeah.
weird. Especially like with my style. Like when I talk about something goofy, it's more relatable if you're like close and you can hear it, you can see the movements and the energy, and like me
Yeah.
being like hippos are weird. People are just like, yeah, cool, man.
Well, I saw the special and you mentioned on it that you were actually practicing new material on that special. So
Yeah.
are there any bits from the Zoom specials that you've been using that you've now are starting to use in your stand-up?
Yeah. So that entire like 25-minute set I did was all new. Like it was all clean jokes that I wrote during like the break of time. So from like March till when I did that, it was all just like thoughts that I had, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try these out. Because
Yeah.
that was like the new special. I was basically working on like the new half hour was gonna be like about my mom and stuff. Out of that 25 minutes, I'd say I kept maybe 12 to 15 and like
Okay.
worked on it and made it better. But yeah, a lot of stuff about my mom is going to be in the next half hour.
Yeah, and I saw a YouTube clip about, I guess it's
My
your.
dad's remarrying. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be in there.
Yeah, that's an awesome one, man. That had me cracking up. So, how do you normally get the inspiration to just develop a bit or develop an idea for a bit?
Something just kind of has to hit me. Like, it's like, and it'll hit me at the most random time. It'll be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll be trying to go to bed, and then a thought will just spark an entire like session of me just writing. Of like, I knew in this special I wanted to talk about my mom a lot, so I was just sitting down thinking about my childhood, thinking about my mom, thinking about what she's going through, what I'm
Hmm.
going through and stuff. And so that sparks like an idea of like, wow, I feel bad that she hasn't got the date. I feel bad for she had dreams and us kids took that from her. Like so, those
Yeah.
kind of thoughts stem off into other things, and I try to work on each thought as its own for as long as I can.
And before this quarantine, you actually had college shows booked and you had a tour prepared. So, have you now been able to reschedule any of that now that colleges are expected to open?
Slowly.
Hmm.
I definitely haven't scheduled as much as I've lost, but I've been able to stay busy, and I've been able to book things, a couple months out, but everybody's still kind of up in the air whether they're coming back or not. So that's been tough. There's still like a lot of work that hasn't been made up for.
And you perform both at the colleges and at clubs. So, which do you prefer between those two?
the clubs. I like the kids like at the colleges, like they're very open to like you can talk about anything, but it's like the directors of the colleges, they're kind of weird about like you can't talk about this. This is a sensitive thing.
Mm.
But all the kids are like, dude, talk about some real stuff. So it's like you're battling two different things, like
Mm.
whereas at the club, the only thing you have to worry about is like if people are laughing, the person who owns the club does not care. Like
Okay.
as long as people have a good time. I'm a big comedy club kid, man. I grew up in the comedy clubs. Like that was like my thing. So yeah, it's not even like close. I love clubs.
So what do you mean that you grew up in a comedy club? Like, did you start working early there or something like that?
Yeah. Like I spent pretty much the last 7 years just like growing up at comedy clubs. You know what I mean? Like it's all I've done. Like I'm a nerd. Like I'll
Mhm.
spend when I first started, I started at Side Splitters Comedy Club in Tampa, and I would spend there's 7 shows on a weekend, one Thursday, two Friday, three Saturday, one Sunday, right? I would go to all 7 shows and just be in the back, just watching, studying, learning, talking to everybody, trying to figure out, how to be better.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's all I've known. So, when you just focus that much time and energy into one thing, that's who you become.
Yeah.
So the clubs gave me a lot of that.
Hmm. Well, you've actually performed at a lot of interesting venues. One that I heard was at a laundromat in Orlando, and another
Yeah,
at a flea market for a couple of teenagers.
yeah,
So,
that's
how is performing at those places?
it's humbling. It's very it's weird, but I'm also the guy who like I'll take a gig that I know is going to be terrible just because I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I just did a parking lot show at Raymond James Stadium, like in the parking lot. It was at midnight on a Sunday. I was like, this is going to be bad. It turned out really dope, but it was like, it's just one of those things to be able to say you did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be like, I played a laundromat. I played Raymond James Stadium, even though it was in the parking lot on like a weird blow up stage. It was crazy. But yeah, I like weird shows, but they definitely humble you. They make you realize that not all stand up is comedy clubs. It makes you appreciate the clubs more.
If anything, that laundromat idea is not a bad idea. I would love to see stand up at a laundromat, especially just doing my laundry, man.
Yeah.
That's quite entertaining because you get bored, doing your laundry at a laundromat.
Yeah, it was weird because like there was people who genuinely were like, "Oh man, this is a good way to pass my time." Then there was other people who were like, "This is not what I came for." Like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the laundromat across the street because there's 500 on this block.
And I heard that Dave Chappelle is the reason why you're actually into comedy. So, what is it about him that really got you into that career?
Honesty. He made it look like so much fun without it being forced. Watching him do stand up was the greatest introduction to stand up comedy because it's just like it looked like the most fun and it looked like the most real thing ever. Like he was talking about real things in a funny way. He was just so lovable and he just felt like a real person, doing a job that doesn't seem that real,
Yeah.
And immediately it clicked. I was like, I want to do that. Like that looks crazy. I've met him 8 times and every time it's life changing. Like he's incredible.
What's the best experience that you had with Dave Chappelle?
The first time I met him, I was sitting in the back of the Comedy Store, and there was like a little bit of space between me and like the next seat because like it was just crowded. And he sat down right next to me, and we're literally like touching knees. And I was like, "Oh my god, like this is my idol, like this is crazy." And
Yeah.
I was like, I have to say something to him, but the show was going on, so I was like, not
Yeah.
like a full conversation, but I just like looked over, I stuck my hand, I was like, "You're the GOAT." And he shook my hand. He's like, "Oh, that's high praise, baby. I appreciate that. Thank you, baby." And I was like, I freaked out. Like just meeting him for the first time and being able to like tell him, like telling someone that they're the GOAT is like it's the shortest way to say everything. It's
Mm.
like you're the greatest to ever do this. You mean the world to me. And it was cool how human he was, because I looked up to him as like this god that I would never be able to touch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, super humble, super nice.
And you were touching knees, or yeah, you were
Dude,
touching
touching knees, bro. Like we were knee to knee. It was crazy. I was like,
Oh
we're gonna
man.
fuse together and create the ultimate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, are there any other comics out there that have really influenced you as well?
Yeah, I got a lot of influences, man. I love Gerard Carmichael. I'm sad to see that he doesn't really do as much stand up as he wanted to, but he did enough stand up to where he could transition into other things that he wanted to do. Patrice O'Neal, I love just the way he'll attack comedy, and it's just beautiful. Man, I have so many influences. Jack Knight, I love Jack Knight. He's one of the youngest dudes who's just murdering, just being as bluntly honest at all times. It's great.
So I've heard you actually mention in a previous interview that this Comedy Cellar has been a dream venue for you to perform at. So what's so special about that place to you?
All the greats that I look up to have cut their teeth there. You know what I mean? Like it's not an easy place to get into, and it's also like it's New York, man. It's gritty. You
Yeah.
know, you get everything combined into one that you just love. The low ceilings, it's dark, it's intimate. Every show is basically sold out now. The lineups are crazy. You get to work with all the best comics. You know, anybody can drop in, and to perform there it'd be sick because you're working with killers every single night. You don't get on that stage unless you're a killer.
Hmm. I've seen, like, if anyone's following you, they will see that you've actually are doing, or you've been doing movie reviews. I think I saw The Notebook was actually one of them. So are there any movies that you can recommend for our listeners to watch while under quarantine?
I just watched the Eurovision, the new Will Ferrell movie. The movie's so good. Like you gotta watch it twice though. The first time you watch it, you're gonna be like, "Oh, this is kind of weird." You know, I don't really get it. And then at the end, you're gonna go, "Oh, I love this." And you rewatch it, and the entire thing is funny.
Oh,
It's so good. It's definitely one you gotta watch twice though. What else? I just watched the Jurassic Park franchise for the first time in my life, and super good. I know it's a common opinion, but it's great.
so what type of movies are you generally into?
I love everything. Honestly, my favorite type of movie is like a good, like where you got to figure out who the killer is, like a suspense movie, or like you seen the one where, like Knives Out, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Mm.
I love that where you got to figure out who committed the crime or who the
Oh,
evil.
yeah.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah. Are you into mystery thriller
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
at all too?
Yeah. I mean, so like I kind of got into it with anime. There's an anime called Case Closed.
Okay.
And it was so good. Every episode was just about like trying to find out who committed these crimes, who killed this person. It was great.
Yeah.
And every episode of CSI or Law and Order I watched, I was like, "Oh, y'all ripped this off. This is already been done. That's episode 7 of Case Closed. I already know that is." I'm trying to be smooth. That's why I didn't really like Knives Out. It's because I was like, that's 3 episodes of Case Closed. I already know y'all trying to set him up for the money. Mm-mm.
Oh man, stealing from anime. Didn't know
Oh,
that.
it is, man. That's like,
Well, speaking of animation, man, I've heard in a couple of interviews, and I think in other videos, you mentioned Ninja Turtles, and you kind of badmouthed a couple of them a little bit. So I'm just curious, like, what's your beef with the Ninja Turtles?
it's funny to make fun of the Ninja Turtles. This is so good. Also, Donatello sucks. I don't care what anybody says, dude. He has a stick. I'm not afraid of a stick. If I pull up to fight and I see a dude with a sword, a dude with the kunai knives, and a dude with nunchucks, I'm fighting the guy with a stick every time. I don't want to fight a dude with a sword. The dude with the stick is getting his hands, bro. Like, no way. What a stupid weapon. I want a stick. You're a dummy. All right. He's the dude that, like, he's the younger brother that nobody wanted to take out with them, but they're like, you got to bring your brother. And he's like, all right, we could have been the Ninja Turtle 3. They didn't want him in the group, bro.
Oh man. So who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Probably Raphael. Actually, I like Leonardo. The one with the swords. I just think swords is the coolest way to go.
Isn't he the one that really loves pizza?
Nah, that's the red one. Oh, no, that's the orange one. That's
Okay.
Michelangelo. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I love the Ninja Turtles. I think my favorite was the second movie. Yeah, but that was the coolest one.
I just like Leonardo. Like the swords is just such a like a turtle with swords. That's the most terrifying thing I've ever heard of.
You're like, yo, I'm not messing with that thing.
Yeah, I'm not pulling up on a turtle with swords.
But hey, that could be a horror movie in itself, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Turtle with swords. So you also have a special out called Sophisticated Ignorance at the Dry Bar. So if anybody's interested in catching that, how would they be able to watch it?
I mean, I've pretty much posted all the clips on all my social media. You can watch them 1 minute at a time, or you can go onto the Dry Bar Comedy app and watch the full thing at once, which is probably the more productive way to do that. But you can go on my YouTube and I put them on there, or just Dry Bar Comedy, the full. I think like a 25-minute special.
Yeah. Cool. And do you have any new shows or projects coming up?
Yeah, I'm working on a lot of stuff. It's exhausting, but I'm trying to put out more content, just like stand-up wise and stuff, and trying to just book more shows. But yeah, I've got some projects that I'm working on. I'm working on this next half hour, so that's taking up a lot of time.
Oh yeah, that would be cool, man. Can't wait for that. We're at a recurring segment in this podcast called Name Your Bio. So if you could write an autobiography about your life, what would it be called and why?
Sophisticated ignorance. Dude, that's gonna be my entire career because it's like there's nothing more perfect than a way to describe me than sophisticated ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
I like saying smart, like dumb shit in a smart way. You know what I mean? Like that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And it's a big homage, whatever. It's a shout out to Kanye. I always have loved Kanye. He's kind of wilding right now, but he's still Kanye to me.
Yeah.
I just think it's the most honest way to describe me as a person.
What's your favorite Kanye song?
Hey Mama.
Hey Mama.
Yeah, I sang that to my mom, and we both cried, and it was great. It was beautiful and sad, and it was everything I wanted it to be. I love that song.
I'm trying to go through a lot of his albums, so yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that song.
Yeah, it's on Late Registration. It's on the second album.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
It's annoying how much Kanye I know. Like,
Kanye everything.
Yeah, dude, I've got the college dropout, like the bear on my leg.
Oh shit! Okay, that's pretty cool. Well, before we wrap, is there anything you want to share with our listeners?
Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for supporting. If you think I'm funny, thanks. If you don't think I'm funny, I get it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Cam Bertrand, appreciate you spending the time and talking to us, and I'm sure our listeners will appreciate hearing a little bit about yourself as well. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. But Cam Bertrand, thank you so much for joining us on Irie Chat, and best of luck on everything.
Thanks, dog. Thanks for having me.